Good morning, everyone. This is Andrew from the Sky Enterprise team. We'll just give it another minute and a half for any last-minute joiners, and then we'll get started. So won't be long now. Thank you. Right, I think we'll get started. So, hi everyone. As I said, this is Andrew from the Sky Enterprise team, and joining me is Martin. He'll be answering any questions you have in the question answer box. So please feel free to post those as soon as they pop into your mind. And we'll also do a Q&A session at the end for any questions that you might have. So fantastic to have you join us here today. This is one in the series of our monthly webinars where we cover different aspects of Sky Enterprise. So this month we've decided to go back to basics, and hopefully we've got people on here who are new to Sky Enterprise or perhaps haven't used Sky Enterprise for a while and are interested to see what the product looks like at the moment. So I've got a brief agenda. I will just point out that most of what I'm going to do today is a live demo. I'm just going to talk about the network management trend in the enterprise market, and then talk about some of the benefits that Sky Enterprise brings to both customers of Juniper and to Juniper partners. I'll talk about some of the key features and functions, and then we'll dive into a live demo. This slide deck is available as a download for all attendees, so have a look around. You should be able to download the webinar, the slide deck, I should say. And with that, let's get started. So if you have been in the industry as long as I have, and you think back kind of 10 years to what the industry was like back then, you could buy firewalls and switches, and mostly those devices were managed via a complex CLI interface, and you really had to become a specialist, be highly trained to use that equipment. Over the last 10 years, we've seen a real shift in the industry, particularly in the enterprise market. And that shift has been towards cloud-based management. And this is just some of the vendors out there that are offering cloud-based management for their networking equipment. And you just have to look at the success of some of these, in particular the Cisco Meraki solution, which really shows that there's a really strong demand in the enterprise market for simple cloud-managed environments. And of course, Juniper is a player in that environment with its high performance, high quality hardware and a powerful CLI, and now with a cloud-based management overlay provided by Sky Enterprise. So what is Sky Enterprise? Well, basically, it's a cloud-based platform for managing Junos devices. It's delivered as a service. You can subscribe to Sky Enterprise on a per-device basis for 1 year or 3 years. And it basically gives you a centralized portal for managing EX, SRX, and NFX devices. What Sky Enterprise effectively does is allows IT generalists the ability to manage Juniper devices without having any specific Juniper skills. So it really makes the day-to-day management of environments available to a much broader range of people. Recently, we've been doing some integrations into other cloud systems, and we started with Aerohive networks, and recently we did Mist systems. So you can now get visibility of those cloud managed APs in your Sky Enterprise platform. So just briefly, I want to touch on some of the benefits that Sky Enterprise delivers. When customers sign up to Sky Enterprise, the deployment of the system is extremely rapid. So a couple of weeks ago, we had a customer who brought on over 400 network devices, Juniper devices, into Sky Enterprise, and they did it themselves in less than 48 hours. So they went from having no management platform to having a centralized web-based portal for all their devices in virtually no time. Sky Enterprise works directly with Junos, so you don't need to install any agents. It can be deployed for new environments and brownfield environments. It can be used for both. It's easy to use. It now includes zero-touch provisioning. Juniper devices are now starting to ship with Junos code that includes the phone home feature that enables zero-touch provisioning. And importantly, Sky Enterprise works in parallel with CLI management. So if you want to use the CLI, if you want to access all those advanced features that are available in Junos, or if you're familiar and comfortable with CLI, you can do that as well as using Sky Enterprise in that environment. So I want to talk briefly about the basics of how devices connect to Sky Enterprise and how they are then managed by Sky Enterprise. And to do this, I'll talk you through how a brownfield device, so an existing Juniper device, is added to Sky Enterprise to be managed. So step one is for the administrator to log into Sky Enterprise and add a device. Sky Enterprise will then generate 8 lines of Junos config that is unique for that device. The administrator logs into the device, pastes in that unique configuration, and commits it. What that then does is instructs the device to use outbound SSH to connect back to the Sky Enterprise servers and to authenticate. The important thing here is that the device is making an outbound connection to Sky Enterprise. So in almost all cases, there are no firewall rules required or no NAT rules required in order to communicate with Sky Enterprise. All the communication is initiated by the device and is outbound. If the interface drops, then the device will reconnect. So in summary, it just works. Now, as I mentioned, more and more Juniper devices are starting to ship with new versions of Junos that include the phone home capability. So now if you're deploying new devices, essentially what you can do is ship that device directly to the site or the location where it's going to be installed. And then you take the serial number of that device and add it into Sky Enterprise and assign a configuration template to that serial number. Then the device is powered on. It automatically calls home to Juniper. The serial number is matched in Sky Enterprise, and the configuration is pushed down to the device. Okay, now I've got a bunch of slides that I'm going to go through very quickly that just talk about some of the key features in Sky Enterprise, and then we're going to drop into a demo. I really just want to cover these features so that you've got the handout and you can refer back to them later. So we have a Maps integration with Google Maps, so you can see the physical location of your sites and your devices. This shows an example of the device dashboard, listing all the devices, some of the security menus, descriptions, etc. And this shows the security policy features that are available for configuring your SRX devices. Sky Enterprise also has performance graphs for all your interfaces, CPU, memory, and temperature, and the ability to manage your Ethernet your interfaces on your devices. In addition, Sky Enterprise can be used to generate detailed security reports, and this is relevant for SRX devices that are running the next generation features that are available for those devices. So these features include things like AppSecure, UTM, web filtering, SkyTP, anti-malware, etc. We also have a growing number of features that enable you to manage multiple devices and configure multiple devices in one action. And we'll talk about those during the demo. And as I mentioned, we have integration with Aerohive and Mist, where you can add your APs into Sky Enterprise and associate them with the switches on your network and view the clients that are using those APs. And of course, we also have the capability to manage NFX devices. So on these, you can do all the day-to-day management. You can create VNFs, copy VNF images, start and stop, and all those basic NFX management features. Okay, so with that, I'm now going to jump into a live demo, and we'll look in a bit more detail at some of those functions that we spoke about before. So when you first log into Sky Enterprise, this is typically the view that you might get, and in this instance we can see that we've got 3 sites, and if I bring another site online, I can simply put a site name in and then start typing till I find the correct address. And then from there, I can add a number of devices into that site. And once I've saved that, that site will pop up, and then I can manage those devices in that site as I need to. So now let's move over to the device dashboard. And here you will see a list of all my devices. Here I've got an EX device, it's an EX2200. You can see the IP address of the network that that device is coming from, and you can see that that device is online. Likewise for the other devices, we present that information. And if you go to this download button, what you will get is basically an asset list of all your devices in real time. So here's one I downloaded a bit earlier. And basically what Sky Enterprise does is generate this detailed list that shows all your hosts, the model, the Junos version they're running, and next to that, the Juniper recommended version that they should be running. It shows the IP address, last connection time, uptime, and it shows which devices have been selected for backup by Sky Enterprise. So essentially, at the click of a button, you have an up-to-date asset list of all your devices. Okay, let's take a closer look at one of these devices. So we'll start with an EX switch. And as we go through the configuration menu, you can see all the different functions you can perform on this switch. So here we have static routes and DHCP. And probably the most common configuration function on an EX is people editing and configuring interfaces and VLANs. So we select that, and what you see is a communication message, And this tells us that Sky Enterprise is going to the device and gathering the configuration details from that device in real time and then presenting them back to us. And that's an important point because Sky Enterprise always uses the device as the master source of information. So we don't store any parallel configs. We don't have the concept of schemas within Sky Enterprise. We simply use the device as master. Right, so Sky Enterprise has gathered all that information, and here you can see we have our physical interfaces, and in those we can edit the interface, we can bounce that interface, and we can configure the power over Ethernet. So if we select this option, we can enable or disable, we can set the priority, and we can set the maximum power level. When it comes to logical interfaces, we have the ability to jump directly to the performance graph, and of course the ability to edit that interface by changing the description, changing the port mode, adding a VoIP VLAN, or selecting a different VLAN for that interface. If I now click on Save Interface Unit, Sky Enterprise will package up the configuration changes that have been made. It'll go to the device, it'll lock it, it'll apply the config, it'll then unlock it, and it'll come back with a success or fail message. Okay, so in addition to VLAN interfaces, Sky Enterprise can manage all your VLANs, your ranges, aggregates, and spanning tree protocol. Now, in addition to all the configuration tasks, we also provide a number of features for system and monitoring of that device. So in this instance, let's take a look what's there. And we go to the commits tab. Now, those of you who are familiar with Juniper devices, you'll know that Juniper stores the last 50 configuration changes. And on this screen here, we can see the last 10 and the option to go back and look at all 50. The advantage of this is it shows very clearly who has made changes to the device, how they accessed that device, and when those changes were made. And then from there, we can start digging in a bit deeper. So we can look in to each of the commits and see what happened. And if we need to, we can do a rollback of that commit. And we can also do a show diff against the running commit. So if we take a look at this commit, we can see that this change involved a command to ignore link down on management Ethernet. A number of other features. Licensing is something Sky Enterprise tracks. So if a license is about to expire, Sky Enterprise will notify you. If you purchase additional licenses from Juniper, you can update them via this interface. And if you're looking for some trial licenses, you can do that as well. So now let's turn our attention to an SRX. Here we have a SRX 300. And what you'll notice is the menu for the SRX quite similar to the EX. But in addition to those menu items, we also have all the security configuration items. So let's have a look at the security policies on this SRX 300. So as you can see, there's a slight delay while Sky Enterprise interrogates the device in real time, and then it comes back with a list of all the security policies on this device. So if we have a look at the policies that are in from untrust to trust, we see we've got just 2 policies there. A common a common requirement is for policies to their order to be changed. With Sky Enterprise, it's a simple case of dragging and dropping those policies in the order that you want. If I click the reorder button, those config changes will be packaged up and placed on the device and commit. When it comes to creating or editing policies, we try and present everything in a very simple one-page workflow. And where there's the option of giving drop-down menu items or the option to select options to make things simpler, we will do that. So for instance, the from address and to address, there's fields that can be chosen. When it comes to applications, you can simply start typing and it'll find those applications that you're looking for. And then the actions, the logging, the addition of UTM policies can all be done from this simple one-page workflow. So in addition to security policies, we also do security zones, NAT, IPsec VPNs, IDP, UTM, security feeds. Let's take a quick look at the NAT policies on this device. So here you can see we have tabs for source, destination, and static. In destination, you can see a number of policies currently in there, and we give you the option to edit or delete those. We also have a nice feature here called the Easy NAT Wizard, and this basically combines NAT and security policies into one simple workflow. So if you're setting up a destination NAT, you put in your source address, your destination address, and your port, and then from there you can configure the security policy that's required to allow this communication to occur. If I click create, that policy will be created and added to the device. In addition to static routes, Sky Enterprise also includes advanced policy-based routing. And so with this feature, you can you shape your application traffic to ensure that business critical or time critical applications flow through primary or faster links, where non-critical or non-business applications might take a backup or a secondary cheaper link. Okay, so I'll just jump back to the devices page, and I'm going to take a look at this VSRX that we're managing here. So this device is running a number of the advanced security features. So I want to show you the detailed security report that can be generated. Okay, so our detailed security report is called an Application and Network Risk Report, ANR. And you can generate a report at any time. It can be for the last 5 minutes, the last hour, the last week, or the last month. And here is a report that I generated yesterday. Now you can download that as a PDF, or you can simply view it on the screen. This report, we give the option of viewing the report either as using graphs or switching to tables. So it's the same data, but just consumed in a different way. So let's have a look at tables. Here we can see exactly which applications are the top data users that are flowing through this VSRX. And you can see the number of sessions, the gigabytes, the category, and the risk rating. You can see security sessions for that device. And then you can see web filtering information. So it starts off with some summary information around the number of requests and queries. and then it goes down into detail to show you which IPs have been blocked by the various web filtering rules. Now, this is a demonstration device, so we've got these rules set very tight. You obviously wouldn't normally block most of these websites, but for demonstration purposes, we're showing you what the device is capable of. So we've got a long list of these. I'll just scroll down to the next section. So we've got IDP, we've got SkyATP Advanced Anti-Malware. We can see SkyATP hosts that have been blocked or permitted, antivirus, and then top IP data. So here we can see the top data users in the network, and we can see exactly what data they are consuming across the network. And then finally, we have a full list of every application that's been identified that's traversed the network. So lots and lots of detail available to help you keep your environment secure. Okay, so just jumping back to the device dashboard, and all devices have an option here called Show Device Details. In there you can see information about the device, its serial number, the version it's running, whether that's a recommended version or not, and then a number of configurable items. So you can decide whether you want Sky Enterprise to collect system metrics and interface metrics. You can enable syslog connection, and that syslog information is used to populate that security report that I've just shown you. You can also enable config backup. So if config backup is enabled, Sky Enterprise checks the device on a regular basis, hourly, and if the config has changed, it'll download the new config. If the config hasn't changed, it just keeps the one that it has. That way, if the device ever fails or you need to do an RMA, you can always come back to Sky Enterprise and retrieve the last good config. Okay, so early on I spoke about how we bring on brownfield devices into Sky Enterprise and how we bring on greenfield devices using ZTP. So I'm just going to demonstrate that now. So here we have an Add Device button, and if I'm adding a device, I simply put a name in, I tell Sky Enterprise what type of device it is, and then I click Create. So this is an existing device on my network, and I now want to add it to Sky Enterprise. So Sky Enterprise has generated this unique set of configuration for the device, and I simply cut and paste this onto the device and do a commit. Now what the commit does is it enables this outbound SSH client on the device, and it instructs it to call home to our servers. And then it authenticates that device securely, and then once it's established, that device will then remain connected to Sky Enterprise, and if it drops its connection for whatever reason, it'll simply reconnect. And you'll also notice that we have redundant servers, so if one of our servers goes down, it'll simply connect to the other one. So here is the device that we created, and that device is currently offline. As soon as I paste the config into the device and commit it, the device will call home, and that'll turn green, and the device will be ready to be managed. So it's a very, very simple process. Now, let's say we had bought a brand new device from Juniper, and this device has the phone home feature installed in the factory version of Junos. and we want to add this device to Sky Enterprise. So again, we go into Sky Enterprise and we create a host name, and again we tell it what kind of device it is, but this time we use the create ZTP device option here, and we then enter the device's serial number, and we select a configuration template for that device. So let's take a very simple template. And what you'll notice is it's asking us for a variable, and this variable is simply the host name. We can look at more advanced templates here. So this is a template for an SRX 300. It includes DHCP configuration and VPN configuration. Now this template requires quite a few more variables to be added. So we would simply add those here and then click create device. So let's go back to the simple one and we go test ZTP and we click create device. Now what this is doing is creating a ZTP device ready and waiting. It also gives us the set of configuration in case we need it, but all going well, we shouldn't need it at all. So now if we take a look at the configuration tab, and in there we have ZTP, and at the top of the page we have our ZTP devices, and here you can see test ZTP is the device I've just created. Here's the serial number, and right now Sky Enterprise is updating the Juniper systems with this device's serial number. So in a couple of minutes that entitle will turn to start and we'll be ready to ZTP. So when that turns to start, the device can be plugged into the network. It'll call home to Juniper. The serial number would have been registered there, and the device will be ready to have its configuration sent down. As a security step, Sky Enterprise sends the administrator who created this ZTP device an email saying test ZTP is requesting its configuration. Do you want to authorize? If you click the link, it'll be authorized, and Sky Enterprise will release the configuration to the device. The device will be configured, it'll connect back to Sky Enterprise, and it'll be online and ready to be managed. Now, below there is a list of templates that have been created, and here we have a very simple sample template. And what you can see in there is that we have two instances where we have double curly brackets, serial and host name. So basically, if you put double curly brackets around anything in the config, that becomes a variable. So the way most people create ZTP templates for Sky Enterprise is they configure a device like the device that they're going to ZTP. They save the config in XML format, and then they add a ZTP template here. So it's a simple case of giving your template a name, a description, and then choosing who in your organization is permitted to authorize the device when it comes up requesting its configuration. And then in here, you paste in the XML config from your device with your curly bracket variables. Once that's done, you can assign that to any new device that's coming in. Okay, so I'm going to start to wrap up the demo. I just want to touch on a few of these items in the configuration tab. These items are really focused around managing multiple devices at a time. So here we have a bulk update feature. This allows you to apply commands to one or many devices, and it allows you to choose set commands or OneConfig. And for instance, if we wanted to change the DNS server for all our devices, we can put the set command in there, and then we can either go and select devices that we want to configure, or we can simply add them all. Once my devices are selected, if I hit this red button, Sky Enterprise will go out to those devices one by one, do the configuration change, do a commit, and then at the end it'll generate a report that shows exactly what it did to every device and the status of that action. Likewise, we have a software distribution feature. So in our software library, you can define a set of images, and then here we have a single image defined. You can then apply that image and do an upgrade to one or many devices. You can select whether you want that image staged or a full upgrade to be done. And then again, you can select either a device or an entire site, or if you've added tags to your devices, anything that's been tagged with the tag that you want. And then again, if you run this function, Sky Enterprise will go out to those devices, pull down the image, do the upgrade, and then generate a report and come back to you. ZTP we've touched already, so we'll have a last look at security policy templates. So now this is a very new feature in Sky Enterprise, and it's really aimed at people who manage fleets of SRX devices. So the typical use case is an environment with lots of branch offices or retail stores where you have SRXs where the security policy templates are similar across all devices. And what this allows you to do is create a template or multiple templates and then assign devices to that template. So here we have 2 devices assigned to the template called branch. And in addition to the template, we can also give individual devices pre and post rules. So you can have them conform to a template, but also have some unique rules pre and post your security templates. So when it comes to creating and editing security policy templates, the look and feel is very similar to when you configure an individual device. Here we have our security policies, the from zone, the to zone. We have application firewall profiles, zones, UTM profiles, and these can all be set up and included in your template. You can add and remove devices to the template as you need. Then once you've got your template set up, the next thing is to firstly check your devices to see if they comply with the template. To do that, we do use the compliance check report feature. And by clicking on this button, Sky Enterprise will go out to the devices that are assigned to this template and check to see whether they are in compliance or not. So the last report we ran had 2 devices and neither device was compliant. In that instance, or if you've just created a new template and you want to apply that template to those new devices, or you want to do an update to your devices, you come to the remediation section and you run a new remediation check. What Sky Enterprise will then do is go out to each of those devices and apply that security policy template across those devices. Okay, and to finish off I'll just touch on our settings page. There's some interesting things in here. First of all, if you are a Sky Enterprise customer, Juniper's JTAC engineers have access to Sky Enterprise, but they will not have access to your devices unless you come in here and tick that box. So by default, that box is turned off. If you've got a support case and you want the JTAC engineer to have visibility of your device, you tick that box and they'll be able to assist you in real time by accessing your device. Here's another interesting feature, enable multi-tenancy. Quite a few managed service providers and universities use Sky Enterprise. Managed service providers use the multi-tenancy function to create tenants within their organization where they can put different customers and the customer's devices, and they can also add users for those customers, either a read-only or a read-write if they're sharing access with the customers. Here we have the Wi-Fi integration options. So currently we've got a Mist Wi-Fi integration going here. We've got our various keys in there that enable the integration. We've got options to turn on metric collections for devices and the option to turn on configuration backups for all new devices. And then last but not least, Sky Enterprise includes the option of turning on commit confirmed. So if this function is turned on, every time Sky Enterprise does a commit on a device, it'll perform a commit confirm. So if it performs the check and it gets a response from the device, it'll then do a confirm commit check. If it doesn't get a response, it'll wait the duration that has been set, and it'll roll the commit back. So with this button checked, the experience for the user on Sky Enterprise is no different. It all happens seamlessly under the covers, but you can be sure that you will never cut yourself off from a device if you have this button checked. Okay, so from here, I've just got a couple of slides to finish off, and so I want to talk briefly about some new features that we've released. So MC lag, or multi-chassis link aggregation, is a feature that's almost ready for release, and that makes it very easy to configure and use that multi-chassis feature. Security policy templates, as I mentioned, is a new feature that we've just released, and Mist Wi-Fi as well. This month we're currently working on adding to the bulk update feature by including the ability to use variables. So you can do config changes across a group of devices, but have variables to make it slightly different. And then for the rest of the year and looking into Q1, we're really focusing on making it easier for people to manage branches and also to connect those branches together. So I won't say too much about that now, but we have these webinars every month, and as things develop, we'll be talking a bit more about some of those features. Security policy templates we covered. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention is we often get people saying to us they've seen documentation where only new Juniper devices are mentioned in Sky Enterprise, and they want to know whether Sky Enterprise supports older devices. The answer to that is yes. We support almost all devices, all the EXs, all the SRXs, and we're about to put QFX devices on the supported list as well, and of course all the NFX devices too. Our message to you, if you've never used Sky Enterprise, we really encourage you to sign up for a free trial. Go to that link, put your details in, and we will set up a trial for you. And if you need any help getting started, we are there to help you. And so with that, I am going to stop talking and see if there are any questions. Right, so one question is from Tom. I can see the session is being recorded, so can I see it later? Yes, we are going to be sharing the recorded session. And also, if you haven't already, please grab a copy of the slides that we covered today. All right. Right, so we had another question here. Okay, good question. So the question is, can you tell us a little bit about licensing and SKUs? Absolutely. Licensing is, Sky Enterprise is a subscription service, and it is, subscriptions are on a per device basis. So if you had 10 devices, you can choose to get a 1-year subscription or a 3-year subscription or a mix of those two. And in terms of SKUs, it's pretty simple. We have Group A, Group B, and Group C. And a simple way of thinking about that is Group A is small device, Group B is medium, and Group C is large. If we just go back to this slide here, that'll give you an example of what Group A's look like, what Group B's look like, Group C's. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. The next question I have is, what does the little star mean? Yeah, I borrowed that table from another slide that does have a footnote in that explains what the star is. So apologies for that. Essentially, what it means is Juniper recommends the devices without a star. The ones with stars are supported, but if you look at the recommended ones, you'll see they're all the new devices. So with those new devices, you're more likely to get the latest Junos code, which has ZTP and things like that. And that's why they're recommending new devices be purchased with Sky Enterprise. As I said before, there's no Sky Enterprise supports all these older devices just as well as it supports the other devices. So another question, this one from Mohammed, is there a way to see the top IP or top users that take bandwidth? Yep, good question. So in that report I showed you right down towards the bottom, there you can see the top IP by data usage. So we don't have visibility of user details because there's no AD integration or anything like that, but you can see the IP address of devices where the data, where they are a top user. Okay, next question is the SE license a license on the box, just like a normal Juniper license? Oh, it's a great question, actually. In fact, no, it is not a device, a license on the device. So the way our licensing works is it's kind of on a trust model. We do monitor, customer usage to make sure that it is being used on that trust model. But our licensing is actually on concurrent devices connected. So if you had 20 SRXs and you bought 10 subscriptions to Sky Enterprise, you could connect any 10 of those devices at any time and you could change them out. So it's not enforced, but it is monitored, and it's fairly flexible. Okay, second question from Mohammed about applications. The question is, can we tell who used the application, where an application is shown as top data. Mohammed, only in the instance where one of those users is a top consumer of data and that application is in there. We don't have the granularity to drill down into applications on a per user basis at this stage. Okay, and the next question here, is there any control over the outbound connection to Sky Enterprise when using different VRFs? I think the answer to this is the device is making a connection out to the internet, and it will use the path that is specified as the default route to the internet. So I guess the answer is yes. You can control that on the device by changing that, but I think the answer is, it's going to take the default route to the internet to connect to Sky Enterprise. Martin, is that the correct answer in your opinion?
Yeah, so it does take the default route, and it's by default going to use the default routing instance like most system services inside Junos. There are some instances where if you don't have a direct route out to the internet from the base routing instance, we've seen some people use that type of scenario where they have all of their traffic in specific routing instances. Then there are some ways, the typical Junos ways, to leak those management routes into the routing instances and get that to work. So there are some knowledge base articles on those things. So definitely we can work with you and investigate that. So yeah, thanks for the question, Jerome, and yeah, let us know and we'll be able to help you out.
Great, thanks, Martin. Okay, another question here. The question is, you told us some reports need syslog collection to be activated. Does this mean the device sends syslog to Sky Enterprise? Yes, so when you're using the ANR report, the report includes two types of data. One is summary data, so some of those tables are populated with summary data that is collected straight off the device. And then the more detailed information about IP level information that's displayed in the report is gathered from syslog messages. So to enable an SRX to send syslog to Sky Enterprise, you go into the device details, you tick the box. Sky Enterprise will give you the IP address of our syslog server, and it'll allocate that device, allocate a unique port to that device to send on. So we know where that traffic is coming from, and we authenticate that traffic coming in. On top of that, we only use TLS, so it's encrypted, and that TLS traffic is sent to us. We process it as we receive it, and we take out just the data that we need for reports, and then we discard all the syslog messages, and we store the report data in our encrypted database. So I hope that answers your question, but yes, you can send TLS syslog traffic to Sky Enterprise servers. The next question is regarding logs. Is Sky Enterprise providing any storage for this? So hopefully my answer to the previous question answered that, but as I say, we basically grab syslog, we take out the data we need for reports, and we discard the rest. So we don't actually store the raw syslog, but we store data in our encrypted database. Can upgrades be scheduled? Not at this stage, but scheduling is a feature we've had multiple requests for, and it's all been ticketed and added to our development system. I'm not sure when we're going to get to it. I don't think it's certainly not this year. and probably not Q1, but I don't imagine it's too far off. Martin, you've got a better view of the feature roadmap. Do you have a view on
Yeah, that's right.
scheduling?
So, yeah, it is looking like we're going to be scheduling that in for the first half of next year, and definitely work with your Juniper counterparts to get a copy of the updated roadmap when that's published. It's due to be published any day now, so we'll have more details on that about the exact scheduling time of that. So that'll be definitely looking at scheduling upgrades and also scheduling configuration changes as well.
Great, thank you. All right, some great questions there. Thanks, everyone. If anyone else has a question, we're at the end of the list, so now would be probably your last chance. If you think of one in the coming days, please feel free to email us at any time. And as I say, we highly encourage you to get trial accounts if you haven't already got one. Give your customers trial accounts if they're interested. And if any SEs or Juniper partners out there would like assistance with doing demonstrations to their customers, you can call on us anytime. Martin and I are based in Australia, but we have John, our SE, based in London, and we'd be very happy to assist you and get you up to speed with demonstrations and with the product. Oh, there's another question. Can I move customers from one multi-tenant system to another? So there's two components to this. You can move users from one tenant to another. But you cannot move devices from one tenant to another. The reason for that is the unique ID that is assigned to each device includes the tenant name, so that device can only ever exist in the tenant. But what you can do is simply delete the devices from one tenant and then go and add them into another. As you can see, it only takes a minute or so to remove and add a device. So yeah, users can be moved, tenants can't be moved. Tenants can be moved from a parent to another parent, or from one level to the next level down or the next level up. So that is possible, but you can't move devices between tenants. Okay, so we're nearly at the end of the hour. So I think all that's left is for me to say thank you all very much. We appreciate your time. I hope the session was useful. And again, please reach out if we can help you in any way whatsoever. We'll work with our partners at Juniper to ensure that the recording is made available if you want to look back on it. And yeah, we're here to help. So thanks for your time. Have a great day. And we're doing our next webinar in December, so we'll send out some information on that closer to the time.